The superscription of Psalm 86 notes what is true of all psalms. They're prayers. This one is a prayer of David. And as John Calvin writes, a better and more unerring rule for guiding us in this exercise cannot be found elsewhere. This psalm is a beautiful guide for how poor and needy sinners, as David identifies himself in verse 1, can confidently cry to God in a time of need. David sought God's help not based on his own deserving, but because he knew that God is merciful. Be gracious to me, O Lord. Listen to my plea for grace, verses 3 and 6 say. By calling God good and forgiving in verse 5, David hints that in the day of my trouble, verse 7, he was at least partly to blame. Even when David decries the insolent men who have risen up against him and sought his life, verse 14, he identified God as a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in love and faithfulness, verse 15, a quotation from Exodus 34, verses 5 through 7. His prayer is a plea for grace from start to finish. Turn to me and be gracious to me, he prays near the end in verse 16. The cry of faith says, in the words of the hymn, nothing in my hand I bring, simply to thy cross I cling. Prayers like this are the best way of dealing with opposition. David's enemies posed a threat because they do not set God before them, verse 14. Because unbelievers refuse to love their neighbor, we cannot engage them on their terms. God must intervene for us. For his own part, David renounces the weapons of the flesh and asks God to help him walk in your truth and fear your name, verse 11. The self-made person puts themselves first. Believers trust in God. We look to him to gladden our souls, and he will, perhaps not according to our desired timeline. But David looks beyond the here and now for the ultimate fulfillment of this prayer. He says in verse 9, all the nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name. This will happen. As Revelation 21 says, one day the kings of earth will bring their glory into the heavenly city. They will bring into it the glory and the honor of the nations, verses 24 and 26. Comforted by that expectation, we can thank God with our whole hearts and begin to glorify his name forever. Here's Psalm 86, a prayer of David. Incline your ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am godly. Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for to you I cry all the day. Glad in the soul of your servant, for to you, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. For you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. Give ear, O Lord, to my prayer. Listen to my plea for grace. In the day of my trouble I call upon you, for you answer me. There is none like you among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. All the nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name. For you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. I give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever. For great is your steadfast love toward me. You have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol. O God, insolent men have risen up against me. A band of ruthless men seeks my life, and they do not set you before them. But you, O Lord, are God, merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. Turn to me and be gracious to me. Give your strength to your servant and save the son of your maidservant. Show me a sign of your favor, that those who hate me may see and be put to shame, because you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me.